Hello and welcome to Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com, the number one Superman fan site in the world. In this, our July 15th, 2024 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including what the hell has happened to our YouTube channel, what's been going on with the latest Superman movie, the updates on the production, and we're going to be talking about the latest episode of My Adventures with Superman. Unfortunately, we are only on Facebook today. Having troubles getting on our Twitter live feed, but before I get into any other further details about what's happened, welcome to my two co-hosts, Michael Bailey, Mark Lax. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you today?
Okay, Steve, how you doing?
Yeah, not well at all. Unfortunately, fallen victim to a scam, a hacker who has taken over our YouTube channel, my Google account, and has pretty much destroyed everything that we've worked for 22 years to build. Nearly 90,000 subscribers. It's just been a nightmare. It's all happened in the last 24, 48 hours. Sadly, I fell victim to what I thought was a legit offer to sponsor our YouTube channel with some through Vistaprint, Vistacreate. All looked legit. Downloaded the zip file that they sent me that contained some legit videos on 15-second or 60-second versions with scripts about what you should read and all that kind of stuff. Thought it was doing a good thing to get us some extra kind of viewers and what have you, and then open up a file that was supposedly the terms and conditions of the contract, and that installed malware that gave them complete access to my Google account, which then gave them access to the YouTube account and locked me out, changed all my two-factor authentication, changed the phone number and email addresses that are associated with, checking these things as backups for any changes you make. I was completely locked out, had just a complete panic attack. I was like shaking, just didn't know what to do, and was just, at my wit's end to try to discover what had happened, why it had happened, how to retrieve it. I have reached out to YouTube and have filled out a form for them to be able to hopefully restore the channel. The hacker has gone in and completely changed it, made it a Tesla thing, and completely deleted all 2,000 plus videos that we've uploaded over 22 years. It's just, if I say any more, I'll probably start crying.
Yeah, and the problem with Google is that they don't have traditional customer service.
No?
This is something I ran into a lot at my old job when I was part of the tech team. People would come in and they couldn't get into their Google accounts, their Gmail accounts and such. And, there's no phone number to call. There's nobody there to help you. Probably
Exactly.
because they don't want to pay for that because they probably get inundated with really stupid calls. Not that I'm saying that they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying I kind of understand why they wouldn't. But yeah, it's just kind of a nightmare. That two tier authentication thing is supposed to be more secure, and it seems to make things worse.
Exactly. You're excuse the pun, and it's an Australian, I think, vernacular. You're up shit creek without a paddle.
That's a thing here too. So
Okay.
Yeah, that's an American thing. Yeah.
In fact, there was a movie called Without a Paddle with Seth Green.
Okay. So, there's no one you can call. There's no phone number. There's nothing that you can do to reach out to anybody. I had a few people, thankfully, give me the Team YouTube account on Twitter that, within a couple of hours, they reached back and gave me a form to fill out about being hacked. And all you can do is wait. They say within one business day that they will get back to you, and I had to prove who I was, my IP address, location, where I post from, where I might have accessed from, the ID of the last video that I uploaded, all these kinds of things to try to prove who I am, that I do have access. And I, the YouTube account is still there. Unfortunately, they've completely erased everything except for some of the community posts and some of the playlists that still show Superman imagery. So you can say, look, you can look at it now. You can still see that there are remnants of what it used to be. I'm just hoping that they can do kind of like a time machine backup thing where they go, let's just reset this to 48 hours ago and bring everything back the way it was. Worst case scenario is it's completely gone and I can't get it back, and we've just lost, as I said, 22 years of work, thousands of videos, not just speeding bulletins and copies of this show, but also all the, Superman, examinations that we've done, the best of videos, top 10 videos, hours and hours. Like I said, 22 years of work gone. Best case scenario is everything just gets restored, we get it back, and we're back in business. Somewhere in between there, we could just get back access to the account, to the nearly 90,000 subscribers, but all the videos are gone, and at least we can start rebuilding from there. To try to start from scratch is just not something that I even want to contemplate.
No, I've never had a YouTube channel, so I'm not sure how their backups work. I'm sure you can delete a video, but I don't know if that completely deletes it or if it's saved on a backup and you can restore it if you need to. It's just people are terrible.
I even pleaded to the person, sent an email to the address that they'd taken over saying, look, have a heart. It wasn't good timing for me. It was an anniversary of the death of one of my daughters, and it was just to just kind of pile on insult on top of insult. It was just have a heart kind of thing, but got no reply. No, they didn't, heartless. But anyway, what do you do?
Push on.
Well, if you want to feel better and maybe take your mind off of it, watch the movie The Beekeeper with Jason Statham.
Okay, is it gonna make me feel better or worse?
Once you watch it, you'll probably feel a little better. I mean, one, don't expect it to be like the greatest film ever. It is a film that is nothing. It is what it is. It is an action film with Jason Statham, where he is an ex-government guy that goes after hackers. So maybe that'll make you feel better. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about Jason Statham. So
yeah, well, I mean, I even submitted a police report, for identity theft and all that kind of stuff, just to cover my tracks. And yeah, it's not ideal. It's a shit situation to be in. Excuse the language, but it's just how I feel. It's just horrible. So what do you do? But push on. I wasn't going to do this show tonight. I know we've only currently got 4 people watching live. It's a far cry from the hundreds that we used to get. We've even just lost one of them. We're down to 3 now. So
anybody watching on Facebook, if you have Twitter friends, tell them to come to Facebook.
Yeah, I even posted the link over on Twitter. So look, it is a crap situation to be in, but unfortunately, and this will get recorded. We always record it, and we'll put up on the podcast as normal. So we will continue to push on in the hopes that, the YouTube channel gets restored, some slim hope that happens, and then I'll be able to upload it there, and we'll push on. But yeah, it is, I feel so stupid for having believed what looked legitimate. I'm usually pretty good with these things, but what do you do? Anyway, we'll push on.
Punch yourself in the face over this.
Yeah, don't worry, I've done that already.
A lot worse. It's very obvious what happened, and it's not your fault. So don't even think of that.
All right, well, we'll push on and talk about the Superman stuff that we are here to discuss. And the movie continues on in Cleveland this past week. They have continued filming in the locales that we've mentioned a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. There again, where were they at? In West 9th Street in downtown Cleveland, near the Detroit Superior Bridge, which we mentioned last week they were filming on. And we got some interesting insights into what they're doing there through, again, some possible spoiler photos. If you're out there, try to remain spoiler-free. Probably not a good thing to continue watching, but not that there are many people watching anyway. But we got some interesting trucks and signage again. This one's Water McCarroll's company. I don't know if that's a reference to anything, but you can see they're serving Central Metropolis. There was a downtown Metropolis map, which is always very interesting to see the Delaware Bay and all the different streets and names and things that they've got in there. Goya Drive was in there, I can see. Sullivan Park. Some interesting names. Ross Boulevard. So some really interesting details in the map there, looking at some of the areas of Metropolis, industrialists and early skyscrapers, like a history banner about the background of Metropolis. We've got the Action Committee of Metropolis. Obviously, 1938 is a very historical date. So some interesting details that were part of this new location that they were filming for the upcoming Superman movie.
See, if I was going to do a Goyer reference, I would do Goyer Chiropractic and have the image be somebody cracking somebody's neck.
Very good.
Would that be too on the nose? I mean, I'm just saying. It's just it's interesting though that they're putting it in Delaware because that is actually a reference to the DC Atlas from the Mayfair role-playing game back in the late 80s. That's where they put Metropolis in Delaware, which kind of makes sense when you really think about it, since it's like a coastal city, but it's not going to be New York City, so you got to put it somewhere. Gotham, by the way, in that role-playing system was in South Jersey, which kind of explains everything you need to know about Gotham City.
Yep.
So,
Jersey joke's not going over well tonight. That's fine. I understand.
No. I know what you're saying. Mike, but Steve doesn't quite know.
Just over the top of my head. Then they continued on. They continued on filming in that location that they were setting up, and some interesting details emerged about what they were setting up for. Huge crowd around a hole in the ground, and there is our Man of Steel down there. I don't know what he's looking at or what he's trying to get out of, but he's having some issues, gone underground. Very interesting, hole in the sidewalk that is emerged out of there. Great looking image there, and just begs the question: what happened? How did he get down there? Is he coming out? Did he go in? Was he underground? Is he fixing some plumbing, as Justin in the comments says? What's going on?
Could be.
I just assume he was thrown to the ground and now he's emerging back from whatever hole was created. So why he's down there, who threw him down there.
Yeah.
That's going to be Solaris. I think that's going to be
it's Brainiac. Just so everybody knows,
and
Brainiac's in the movie. Yes.
Yeah. Does Lex Luthor have an underground lair again? Stand back, folks. That kind of thing, but different type of hole this time. Never know.
Well, how many people do you know, Steve, that have a Park Avenue address?
Very good. All right, and this past week also saw the date that we'd been mentioning is now 1 year to the day that Superman will be released in theaters. We do have, and we posted up our own article about the fact that it was 1 year to go, and then James Gunn posted the official symbol to his social media accounts. And so we've got a clearer image now of the S Shield. I like it. I like what they did there. Someone also created a phone, like a lock screen version for your phone wallpaper, which is really cool. You can download that, and I've got down in the background of my apps. But it looks good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice and bright and shiny.
Yeah, indeed. And then the location of filming continued over to a baseball field. It's the Progressive Field, a baseball stadium in downtown Cleveland, which was renamed and rebadged to Lord Tech Field. So obviously Maxwell Lord heavily involved in this film and what's going on. We saw already the logo on the costumes of some of the other heroes, but we've got Superman there fighting this black-clad person again, whether it's Ultraman, whether it's somebody else. We still don't really have a clear indication, but it continued, and we saw interesting, instead of wire work this time, we got some interesting rotational work with Superman throwing punches in a circular motion. We've got the engineer on the ground there. Just really interesting what they're doing there with these special effects techniques.
Yeah, that cool.
That it looks like, those grabber things you get to pick things up off the ground. That kind of looks like what they got them in right now.
Yeah.
But I love all the practical effects that they're doing for the film, that they're not just relying on CG.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, the CG looked fine in Man of Steel. I think that was one of the problems with Superman Returns, is that instead of relying on the practical things that they did, they switched out to CG characters and it didn't look as good. So if they're doing this kind of stuff, it's going to be, I think it's just going to look nicer and look more verisimilitude. One would say, where it looks real because it is real.
Yeah, all the digital. I mean, everything was digital. Man of Steel, Superman. Batman v Superman. Here you can see. Certainly there will be digital. I hope most of the time when we see the cape, it will be a real cape. So far, we have seen, pictures of the cape, but it's good to know that it's a little bit more old school. It kind of goes in with what James Gunn wants to do. It's a little more old school, and I come from an age where those practical effects and even those Ray Harryhausen little create stop motion looked fantastic, where kids today would look at this stuff and say, "Oh, that looks terrible." No, that's awesome. So if they can pull, a lot of these practical effects off, which I know they will be able to do, I think it's going to look great.
Yeah, I remember growing up watching Jason and the Argonauts and those type of films, and was just like mesmerized by fighting. Clash of the Titans, fighting some. Oh, that was just awesome. But obviously today we expect a lot more from our special effects, and it's good to see that they are doing some practical effects. Yes, the cape is detached in some shots and they'll do it digitally later on, but in many others it is physically there, so it'll be interesting to see the final product when we are sitting in theaters this time next year. So looking forward to that whole process. All right, so that's the Superman side of things as far as the upcoming film is concerned. They are still filming in Cleveland at the moment, and I've seen some interior shots of Superman inside I think it's Lord Tech building today that they were showing that. Nothing really interesting there to kind of reveal, but it's nevertheless ongoing. So we look forward to the continued work that they do on the upcoming Superman movie. But promo video has been circling for the upcoming Superman, the Christopher Reeve story documentary, which we now obviously know will be having a theatrical release across most locations around the world. I found out this week that, as we know, in the USA, it will have a September 21st presentation with an encore presentation taking place on Christopher Reeve's birthday on September 25th at locations around the USA in different theatres. But fans in the UK will be able to see the film on November 1st, while fans in Australia will be able to watch the film in theatres here on October 10th. So it is getting around for theatrical releases around the world. Here is a bit of a promo that they released that I did have up on our YouTube channel, but now you can probably find it elsewhere. But here is a bit of the Christopher Reeve documentary. It's a promo of sorts, not actually a trailer, but it is nevertheless still very interesting to have a look at. Take a look.
Doing things with my dad, it was all about activity and action. Riding bikes, playing soccer, skiing.
My dad was very competitive, and he didn't necessarily slow down.
We said goodbye, and he gave this wave. That was the last time I saw him on his feet.
I'd ruined my life and everybody else's. I won't be able to ski, sail, throw a ball to Will. Won't be able to make love to Dana. Maybe we should let me go.
She came flying in, and she just yelled, "I love you. I love you."
And then she said the words that saved my life. You're still you, and I love you.
So there you have it. It's hard not to well up watching that. So I'm thoroughly looking forward to being able to watch this in theatres later this year.
Yep, looking forward to it. I don't know if I'll get it to the theater, but definitely when it comes to streaming, I'll be checking it out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's going to be, yeah.
A tearjerker.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's the movie side of things. Now we turn our attention to the television side of things, where the penultimate episode of Season 2 of My Adventures with Superman aired on this past weekend. It was titled Pierce the Heavens Superman, and it was a very powerful episode. I think it's the best of Season 2 for me so far. Have both of you seen it? Mark, have you caught up yet?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. I gave it a 5 out of 5 rating. What did you guys think of this episode? Mark, I'll start with you first.
No, I thought it was a great episode. I love that Lois and Clark finally truly professed their love for one another. I love the Daily Planet gang cutting off Amanda Waller. I just, it just had so many different, it had humor, it had, romance, it had, so much action. And, it's the thing I think, and I guess we'll be discussing it, is at the very end when he emerges with the new costume. I'm not thrilled with it. I don't, hate it, certainly, but I have my issues. And then, the issue is not the biggest issue. Without the trunks, that's not the biggest issue. It's an issue, but it's not the biggest issue. But the rest of the costume I had a little bit of a problem with. But let's see what happens. We have one more episode, and who knows what they have in store. But it was a great episode. It was exciting, and Steve Lombard comes to the rescue. So how could you hate that? How could you not like that?
Michael.
I'll give it a 5 out of 5 too. I was very impressed with it. I liked all of the scenes in the Black Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Really, kind of all the little storylines and the emotional beats that they've been playing with for the entire season, kind of coming together with her finally being able to break through. I loved the '80s soundtrack as they were breaking free. That just made me laugh. My wife thought it was incredibly cheesy, and she was right, but I didn't care. I was like, yeah, you can keep saying that. It is cheesy. Shut up. I'm watching this. Not that I told my wife to shut up. I would never do that. I just, everything about it, like all of the problems with how they introduce Supergirl are kind of still there for me, but that doesn't change the fact that it's done well. That's kind of the weird space that I live in right now, where something may not be how I wanted it to happen, but that doesn't mean that it's bad.
Yeah.
On one end of the spectrum you have this show, on the other end of the spectrum you have Batman v Superman for me. So, but the thing that I liked about it the most was how the stakes just kept getting raised. Like, Lex brings out all the Metallos. They've got kryptonite hearts. That's bad. But Brainiac has a shielding for that, so it's not going to be that easy. And then he hacks. Not trying to trigger you, Steve. He hacks the Metallos, and it just all kind of came together. I also like seeing this Lex Luthor not knowing what to do, because he is such a jerk that I'm just like, great, he's getting his comeuppance. And who knew that Steve Lombard would be lovable? He really kind of stepped up this episode. I really liked that, and boy, did I like jerk Jor-El and Laura. With Brainiac, there was like this whole Groundhog Day feeling to that sequence of Lois keep getting rebooted back to where she came in. It was just all very well done. The season has been really interesting. I will note that Laura, if that is actually Laura, which I assume that Brainiac would use that visual, has the same hair color as Silver St. Cloud.
Okay.
Maybe that makes him flirt with Silver a little creepy, but that's okay. No, and the new costume, I kind of, I don't like the lack of trunks, but I don't hate the costume, because they kept the red boots, and it's just like, I don't know, it's really weird, and it's why I didn't like the Rebirth costume, or the first Rebirth costume, I guess I should say, is because they still didn't have the trunks, and then they gave him blue boots, which I thought looked terrible. At least here, it's still something of a traditional Superman costume. But if you're gonna level up, you're gonna get a new suit, so that's very anime.
Yeah.
It just, I don't like it looks like armor, and I don't. Not only do I not like, I like Superman with armor when he doesn't have powers, but like in the New 52, why, I still don't understand why he had armor. He doesn't need it. He's So this gives me, it may not be armor, but when you look at those shoulder pads, I mean, I don't know. I like I said, I don't like that there's no trunks, but that's not that doesn't kill it for me. But the rest of this, especially the shoulder pads, that kills it for me.
It's very much Kryptonian.
It's
It's all Kryptonian, and it's very much like what Kara was wearing when she had her costume. So there are elements of that in it, and I understand what they were going for. Hopefully, it's just not. It was just for this clash with Brainiac, that it's just something he's wearing for this moment, and then he'll just go back to his usual costume in season 3. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, that's my impression, I think.
It's interesting you bring up the New 52 outfit and the armor. There is a pushback from a certain contingent of the fandom that really didn't like the idea that it was armor. And then there were people saying, no, it's not armor, when clearly in the comics they said it's armor. And I think the reason they did that was it's an example of trying to over-explain something to make it more legitimate in a modern context that you really don't need to do. And I think every time, it was the same with Man of Steel. That suit in the Man of Steel film was basically like the L family, like exploration suit. Now, why it had a cape, I have no idea. Maybe capes are cool. Maybe they're a fashion. It's like bow ties with Doctor Who. But it's like when I hear them trying to justify the costume like that, I don't automatically reject it, because it always just strikes me as something that they're trying to do to make it not look like a spandex outfit, or to not feel like a spandex outfit, when no one cares. No one does. John Patrick Van Pelt in the chat says, Michael, what about the kiss that Lois did to try to remember who he was? Hey, Maybe it works reverse with Lois. Maybe Lois has memory returning kiss, whereas Superman has like the memory taking kiss. I don't know.
Yeah, that's amazing when you think about it. Yeah, he takes it away, she gives it back. That's there you go.
Yeah, no, I liked Lois in this episode, and I liked the fact that just the touch of him was enough to regain her memories, and then she had to go through this whole process of over and over again of trying to win him over. And I love the fact that it doesn't matter what scenario we're in, Clark is still Clark. Whether he's Kal-El, whether he's Superman, he's still caring, he's still thoughtful, he's still lovable, he still tries to bring her cake even though he doesn't know who she is. You know, it's just so awesome that Clark remains who he is in any scenario. And then eventually, she's able to, break through that brainwashing and the Black Mercy and be able to reignite his memory. And then together they're able to defeat the Brainiac's Black Mercy reality and break through. And it was all very well done, and I thought that was awesome, and just very much solidifies the fact that Superman and Lois are a power couple together in more ways than one. And I love the fact that Lois got to exhibit some superpowers in that reality by being able to stop Jor-El's or Brainiac's punch. But so awesome episode. And now we look forward to the season finale, and we have the promo for that. So check out the promo for the final episode of season 2 of My Adventures with Superman. It is titled My Adventures with Supergirl.
On the season finale of My Adventures with Superman.
I gave you a chance. I reached out my hand to bestow the favor of empire, but you rejected me. You are a world in rebellion, and you will be purged.
My Adventures with Superman, season finale next Saturday at midnight on Toonami, next day on Max.
So there you have it. That's the promo for the finale of season 2. And I'm just loving what Michael Emerson is bringing to the voice of Brainiac.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So Superman, Kara, Lois, and Jimmy team up to fight Brainiac. Superman has to choose between saving Earth and saving the people he loves. It's truth, justice, and a better way clashing with the might of Krypton. So that's the promo. We look forward to the finale, and you can make sure you'll be seeing my review up on the website as soon as the episode has concluded. Looking forward to being able to bring you that. All right, before we get into the fan favorite segment of our show, and also we're still going to do a costume analysis of the Kingdom Come costume from the Crisis crossover with Brandon Routh. DC announced their expanded San Diego Comic-Con presence and lineup with a new booth on the show floor. San Diego Comic-Con is taking place July 24th through Sunday, July 28th. And so not only will we see merchandise available, which will include some merchandise that is of the new symbol for the upcoming movie. There's obviously some Supergirl stuff there. There's a All-Star Superman variant cover featuring the new logo, but there'll also be Absolute Power being covered. But there's also a T-shirt and caps for the new logo that are already available and will be available through San Diego Comic-Con, the DC booth there. But not only that, but DC will also there'll be some hosting some panels. One for Superman and Lois, Season 4, the 4th and final season. For the first time, Superman and Lois will feature a panel at Comic-Con. I haven't done that before in any of the 4 seasons or 3 seasons previous. And there'll also be a My Adventures with Superman panel that will take place with Jack Wyatt, Josie Campbell, Brendan Clogger, Jack Quaid, Alice Lee, Ishmael Sahid, and Kiana Madeira, all there for this panel that'll take place on Saturday. But the Superman and Lois panel will be pretty much directly after it on that Saturday morning as well. So, and that will include Todd Helbing, Brent Fletcher, Tyler Hoechlin, and Bitsy Tulloch.
Yep. We've been talking over the last couple of months how it seems like the worm is turning in terms of DC really promoting Superman. And this is a good example of that, having a Superman and Lois panel finally. Only took him 4 seasons. Yeah, that sounded bitter because it was. And, having the My Adventures with Superman panel, it strikes me I don't think we're going to have a teaser trailer for the film next year, but I'm hoping some kind of surprise, like appearance by some of the crew or some of the cast or whatever, which would be nice. But yeah, it just seems like that they really want to highlight Superman, and I'm still not used to that. It still feels weird, and it shouldn't.
It does. It does. Superman's finally getting the limelight, and it's kind of a bit bizarre. We don't know how to react. So yeah, looking forward to San Diego Comic-Con. Obviously, none of us will be there, but Louis James, who will be there on behalf of the Superman homepage, will hopefully be able to submit some reports from some of these screen presentations and panels.
I say every year, next year I'm going to go. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of money. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Well, if you don't go next year, it may not happen because, and they have rumblings of this in the past, but apparently hotel costs in San Diego are making it kind of cost prohibitive to hold the convention in the city, which is something I don't understand, because here in Atlanta, they could say, okay, your hotel room is going to cost $5,000 in your firstborn a night, so you have to keep having firstborns, and people in their cosplays will show up and just fork that money over. So I guess San Diego is a little more frugal than here in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's getting very expensive from what I hear. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the future. But we'll keep you abreast of this year's details once the convention hits. All right, let's get into our fan favorite segment of our show before we do the costume analysis for this week. Here we go. All right, so our fan favorite question from last week was, what is your favorite Curt Swan comic book cover? And we had quite a few. We had a number of people respond, but we had each of those people gave us a million examples. So I'm gonna be clicking left, right, and center here. So let's see how we go.
Okay, first up is Lorenzo Valdez, who wrote, my favorite Curt Swan comic book cover is from Action Comics number 583. It's such a bittersweet cover, befitting the emotion of such a bittersweet issue, the second part of Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lorenzo.
And David Rustage wrote, this is an almost impossible task, as I love Curt's art, so please indulge me. I have chosen 9 pieces that demonstrate why his covers caught my eye and lured me to be part of my pocket money. My pocket money. The most iconic, though, is probably the back cover of Superman Annual number 6, showing the Superman family in the 1960s. Please make the next fan favorite question easier. Excellent show.
Thank you to David. Yeah, David's got that's the image that he's referring to there, and just so many great covers. So thank you to David. JP Rocha wrote in saying, my favorite Curt Swan comic book cover is Action Comics 583. Curt teamed with Murphy Anderson shows a regretful Superman flying away from his friends. Superman's rendering detail and the pose give off the feeling that he is reaching out to us for a hug. In general, this is just a great cover. So another one there for Action Comics 583. Thank you, JP.
And finally, Kirby Lindell wrote, it is almost impossible to pick 1 or 2 covers by Curt Swan. After all, he was the GOAT of all Superman artists during the Silver Age when he was doing covers for the Superman family. The book sold millions of copies together. His Superman is the defining Superman. So here's just a few, and I'm leaving out so many. Adventures 356 is for Michael. So sure, I'll see that in a second.
Let's go back and have a look.
Super Baby. Really? Yeah, I'm getting trolled with Super Baby. This isn't right. Y'all, it's been a hard week.
There you go.
That's okay.
So thank you to those people who sent us in those responses to the fan favorite question. Our new fan favorite question this week is, what is your favorite Superman comic book cover featuring Toyman? So going back to some of the character options, So Toyman is the option for this week's fan favorite question. Send in your emails with those responses for your Toyman cover. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my graphic back up here. Where are we? There we go. Your email to send them to is info@supermanhomepage.com. Send in your responses to the fan favorite question, and we will feature them when we next cover this topic. All right, so that's the fan favorite question for this week. Let's jump into the costume analysis. This week in our costume analysis, we are covering the Brandon Routh Kingdom Come Superman costume from the Crisis crossover on the CW, and we have an interesting look at this very iconic costume with Brandon Routh there standing with hands on hips in a awesome pose with a bit of greying at the temples of his hair. So let's go in, starting as we do with the cape. Love the way this cape tucks in under the collar, as you can tell from our recent coverage, although you probably can't tell because those videos aren't available anymore, how much I love the fact that the cape tucks in under collars. Much preferred way for me that this attaches to the costume.
Yeah, and it sits right as well. It's not uneven. It's not too poofy. I've been watching a lot of season 4 of Lois and Clark, and the cape on that costume tended to get a little like it's almost like when your hair gets out of control. Maybe I'm talking to two people that don't understand this, but
Well, if I take my hat off, you'll see. I know.
But still, the way the cape sits, the way the cape like the length of the cape, everything about it I like.
Yeah, it's an iconic cape. I mean, they really went all out, I think, with all of this. But the cape is just, like you said, sits right. It's the right length. I like the colors perfect. It's just, wow, I just love looking at it. The way it's blowing like that. I really like this cape.
Yeah, it is. It's just awesome. Everything is perfect about it. Length, color, weight, holds on to the costume, all works really well. And then you've got the body of the costume. It's pretty much a blue spandex, but it does have that kind of bit of a print to it. It's not just plain blue. It's not just clear. It's got a bit of embossing on it, a bit of a print, as I said, a bit of a pattern. But that's okay because it's not over and done. It's not over embellished.
Yeah, no, I usually... Sorry, got distracted with something that shouldn't have gotten distracted with. I think the texture of most of the other costumes we're talking about, like you said, is a little on the nose or a little too apparent. Here, the only reason I'm noticing any texture is because you're highlighting it. In the show itself, you didn't notice it at all, which I really, really liked. It's funny that this is the promotional picture and it's not the best shot of him in the costume, which is kind of weird that you would think they would want to put that forward. Like his chest is sticking out like really high on this one, but no, I just like how the blue. Yeah, that's a much better one. See, with that, you don't notice the texture at all. It just looks like a blue tunic that has a good royal color to it.
Mark?
Yeah, no, I don't mind the texture. Again, in the show, you really don't notice it, but I think also part of what gets me with this was then, Brendan Routh in the Superman Returns costume. I mean, it shows such a long torso. You don't notice that as much with this. I think the color is spot on. It's, we don't want it that bright and we certainly don't want it dark. And it's just a beautiful looking color, I mean, it just looks like the color kind of you'd see in the comics or you saw maybe when we read Kingdom Come. It just looks really good. And I just, the texture is fine. It's only noticeable again because we could see it gigantic. But but it's, even if they wanted to really be noticeable, it's not distracting. It's not made of a bunch of S's. It's not, it just looks really nice.
Now, if I do have one problem with this costume, it is the symbol. Not the shape of it, not the design of it, but the fact that it is an applique, like that it is a solid piece that is put on, which kind of goes in with the fact that Brandon Routh wore a similar, although a smaller version, that was a solid piece in Superman Returns. Here, it looks like some of those edges, especially at the bottom there, could, pretty much hurt you if you're, if Brandon Routh's like doing crunches or something like that. That bottom, that's going to pierce his stomach. Though he's Superman, so it probably won't. But yeah, it's large, which is an Alex Ross thing, and that's what this is based on, as an Alex Ross design. The symbol does go pretty much from armpit to armpit. I don't mind. I mean, it's the Kingdom Come symbol, so I'm not going to even talk about the design of the S. It's just that, for me, I don't like the solid plastic, metal, whatever you want to call it. I rather where the S is part of the material, part of the costume.
It's weird because for me, it really depends on the lighting and the shot. Like here, it is very apparent, just because of the shadows and all that, of how three-dimensional the thing is. There, it looks a little flatter. One of the earlier pictures that you were showing to show off the cape, you don't really notice it as much. And there's that scene where he comes back from the universe he couldn't save, and he's pounding the ground, and he puts his hand near it. It didn't really distract there. So with me, it's like, I don't know if this sounds weird. It all depends on the shot that if it bothers me or not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I've said before, I don't like the 3DS. I'm never a fan of 3DS, and I certainly didn't like it in Superman Returns. Would I rather it be more embossed or more into the costume? Sure, but again, because we're not arguing with the S shape itself. It's the Kingdom Come S, and it looks fantastic. In different shots, it does look a little different, and I think. The way I don't know the decision, of course, why they made it like this. When they filmed it, whether they would have rather have gotten different angles to make it look a little differently, I don't know. But the whole thing is, it's more of a 3D image, which I don't love. But at the same time, the rest of the costume and the style of the S is just perfect, so it doesn't bother me that much. It really doesn't.
Something interesting that I've noticed, if you look at the upcoming Superman movie, very similar, obviously, of course we know it's the Kingdom Come, but the top and the right, they're still very much there. There is a curve at the bottom here that kind of indicates the bottom of an S, but that's very straight on this, but nevertheless, just thought I'd kind of compare the two while we had them up on the screen. So that's the S symbol. Now we look at the trunks and the belt. I love the black belt with the gold buckle. Obviously, we're going with that kind of whole motif. It's a belt. It's like it's almost like a belt you would be wearing at home with your jeans. Other than the gold belt buckle, which hey, you might go for that kind of style. But there's a belt, and there's and you mentioned earlier, Mark, about the torso, about in Superman Returns being so long. I think it has a lot to do with the trunks. Here, the trunks are not Speedos like they were in Superman Returns. Here, the trunks go further down the thigh and maybe a little bit higher up on the waist.
Yeah. Definitely.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, definitely. They're longer trunks, and they don't look baggy either. With the belt, if you go from the end of the S, the tip of the bottom of the S, until you get to the belt and the trunks, it's definitely one of the reasons why the torso isn't so long. In Superman Returns, because it was almost bikini sized, you noticed it. Here, you don't notice it, and I think, as a whole, especially like I said, the trunks are not baggy, because a lot of times the trunks could be a little baggy if they're a little bigger. These are just, they fit just right. I like the black belt, which normally, I don't love a black belt, especially on Superman, because yeah, the motif, obviously Kingdom Come. I just think the whole thing looks really good.
Yeah, I think they're right into the butter zone of the trunks, which is a
Yeah.
really weird sentence to say. I wasn't planning that. When it came out, it was like, that's weird. No, because I was actually talking about this with my wife, who really dislikes the new costume from the new movie. So we've been having a lot of discussions about it, not arguments, because I'm not going to argue with my wife about a Superman costume. That's really stupid. But one of her problems are the trunks, and I'm like, well, and I showed her the All Star Superman costume, and we are really getting into that kind of, since we've been looking at all these costumes, it's really the difference in the Speedo look, the kind of weightlifter, 30s era muscle man
Strong
trunks.
man, yeah.
Here, yeah, here we're right in the middle of that. And I am glad that they're a little higher, because Brandon Routh is a very tall man, and he is a man that, if you look at him in the Superman Returns costume, he seems to be 90% torso. And here you don't get that, which I really like.
Then we get down to the boots, which are very much a leather boot with the big dip of the V at the front. It's a lot more of a V. It's a wider V. It goes around to the side of the foot of the leg. I'm never usually a big fan of the leather look type of work boot, slip it on type of thing. I like it when it's a bit more streamlined. But I mean, that's just part of what the costumes do these days. They don't necessarily make them like dancers' shoes like they did back in the 50s and late 40s. Even the Christopher Reeve costume didn't seem as so much like a leather boot, but I guess that's what they're going with in more modern times. And it's not a bad look. I like the shape of the boots. They just look a lot too much like a work boot for my liking. More like a lady's boot.
I don't know if I would say ladies' boot. They got more of a cowboy look.
Yeah.
Look
That's
to them.
good call.
Which I don't necessarily see as Superman. I appreciate, though, that they put the effort to do the V cut, even though it's not. I think this is a boot, though, that looks much better from the front. It seems like whenever they show it from the side, it looks kind of squat. It's kind of a weird. It's just the angle of the photo, I guess, when they're shooting it. Not as bad as like some of the Tyler Hoechlin shots from the side, but I think from the front they look really slick. I don't mind the leather look. I think some other costumes, like the Dean King, there was a Dean King boot that laced up, and I'm like, wow, that must have just taken forever. Excuse me. But no, other than that, I really don't have too many complaints with the boots.
If there's one part of the suit that I have to say I like the least, I'd say the boots. But even that, I said I don't like the work boot look. But even so, it's just, it doesn't bother me with this. It just seems, it's not the best aspect of the whole suit, but the V looks good. Again, they're going with the leather boot, not the more, ballet style kind of look. But no, it doesn't bother me that much. It's not my favorite part, but I can't really complain that much about it.
And then we've got Brandon Routh himself. We spoke about him when we were talking about him in Superman Returns costume analysis. Here they've just got a bit more of the greying hairstyle. His hair's not as wet look, not as slicked back. The S isn't as forced as it was in that movie, but you gotta love Brandon Routh as the Kingdom Come Superman.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have nothing more. Yeah.
I am trying to figure out how in that one picture, I don't know if they did something to it. It looks like he's got like the Fleischer squinty eyes when he's photographed with Declan. But no, he's it's funny how the hair looks different. Like in that promo shot, it looks more like a hairpiece.
Yeah.
Whereas in the shot you just had up, it actually it looks more natural. I don't know if the graying looks as natural as it could, but there's so much I like about this look and this costume, and the fact that he was even Superman in this thing in the first place, that I'm cutting it metric yards of slack.
Yeah, now I give this a 9 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 10.
I'm gonna be with Steve. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It's almost a perfect costume, but but like the problems with it are so minor, that it's not like you don't take off more points.
Exactly. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up not just our costume analysis, but also our show for tonight. Thank you for the few people who did sign in. I know we've made it hard without the YouTube channel being active. We do hope to be able to post this. It will be up on the website for people who watch it later on. We'll also be part of our podcast audio version that goes out every week. So we appreciate anyone who watches the show. We'll keep you posted on any updates in regards to what's happening with the YouTube channel, hoping to regain that access and reload everything. Hopefully YouTube can manage that for us. We'll keep you posted. But thank you, guys, for doing tonight's show. Last minute notice, we weren't thinking about pushing ahead, but I thought the show must go on. And for whatever it's worth, it's done.
Yay.
It was very, very good. Thank you, Steve, very much for this, for doing it under such duress.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. No need to thank me, sir. We're all part of the same team.
Exactly.
Very good. All right, well, hopefully we'll continue to do this again next week. Don't know where we'll be. Try to figure out the Twitter issues. It was only on Facebook tonight. Hopefully, look, by this time next week, I'll have, obviously, details on what's happened with the YouTube channel once and for all. Fingers crossed. Keep me in. Keep me, if you pray, keep me in your prayers. If you have any sway at Google or YouTube, send them an email, post to Twitter, send them a email, whatever it might do to help get this thing going. But thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your support and for doing tonight's show. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. Thank you for our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. I'm Steve Eunice. On behalf of myself, Michael Bailey, and Mark Lax, thank you for watching Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. Good night.